Very good evening. Welcome to the ninth edition of Life is Larger Than Medicine, the concept that we started almost 9 months back, somewhere in August, September. And today we have, we are in the ninth edition, and today's session is very, very interesting. It deals with the yoga, which is the internal discipline, one of the most I can say the intrinsic discipline that requires, and that yoga is summation of all the disciplines that we have, karmic discipline and other type of disciplines that we have. So today session is going to be on yoga, the art and science of art and science of living, and this will be presented by Dr. Sudhir Shah sir. And these are some of the sessions that we have covered in Life is Larger Than Medicine. We started with the importance of diet and exercise, followed by pursuit of happiness, lateral thinking, brain and body, how to approach patient with medical specialty, so how to improve psychological immunity, transcendental meditation, how to excel as a physician specialist, lessons from the stalwarts. And last month we did how to improve medical education and training system in India. So today's session on yoga, the art and science of living, will be chaired by Dr. Anirudh Apte sir. And Dr. Anirudh Apte sir is a consultant neurologist at INS Hospital, Surat. He has more than 25 years of clinical experience and practice. He has more than 5 paper publications in the peer-reviewed journals, delivered numerous talks and presented posters in the state and the national level conferences. And his areas of interest are neuromuscular disorders and stroke. We request Dr. Anirudh Apte sir and welcome Anirudh Apte sir to this webinar, and we request to take the proceedings further, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Today's session on yoga is very much in tune with tomorrow's International Yoga Day, and there could be not a better speaker on this occasion than Dr. Sudhir Gupta, Sudhir Shah, who happens to be my senior colleague and a very close friend. And so Sudhir bhai does not need any introduction, but for the sake of completion, I would just introduce him. He is the professor and head of Department of Neurology of the NHL Medical College and SVP Institute of Medical Sciences, and he has been the director of neurosciences at Sterling Hospital for almost 25 years now. He's a consultant neurologist to the governor of Gujarat. He's advisor to the World Yoga Foundation, and he has been actively involved in the Indian Academy of Neurology, and he was the executive member of the Indian Academy of Neurology. He is one of the few neurologists in the country and the only one from Gujarat who has been conferred with the Padma Shri Award. That was in 2016. He has been conferred with the B.C. Roy Award for Excellence in Medicine in 2018. And he has been a recipient of several international and national awards. His areas of interest include stroke, neurodegeneration, contemplative neurology, and he has been very active in the academics also. He has written 6 books on neurology and has several publications in the state, national and international journals. And one very unique thing and research which he has done is on prolonged fasting. And it was on a yogi. And if I am not mistaken, yogi goes by the name of Mataji. I think Sudhir bhai, that was his name?
Yes, Prahlad Jani, correct.
Prahlad Bhai Jani, yeah, and he has
fondly called as Mataji, yeah.
Yeah, called as he used to be called as Mataji, where his nickname was Mataji, and his research on prolonged fasting has been featured in 3 international documentaries by the BBC, Discovery, and CNBC, and that has really been a very, very fascinating study and insight into the yogic practices. And today we are here with the person who has delved into this research himself, And that person is none other than Dr. Sudhir Shah. So over to you, Sudhir bhai.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you, Anil Bhai, for being here on the Sunday evening. Happy Father's Day to all of you. I thank Torrent Pharma and all the participants who are here on this Sunday evening. I think it's a family time, but tomorrow there is an exceptional day, World Yoga Day, and I think to commemorate that day, this was a relevant topic, and I'm happy that we are all together today. Now, this subject is a fascinating subject, endless subject, and it cannot be dealt in 1 hour or 5 hour, or maybe 1 year. It is a lifelong subject. So I will try to give an introductory remarks on different aspects of yoga, and maybe I will dwell some time on Raj Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Some of the technical words that are used in yoga are not being possible to translate in English. So some of the words would be in Sanskrit or Hindi, and maybe some part of my talks, some sentences will be Hindi. So bear with me, because I couldn't find proper translation to justify the exact meaning. And I'm sure we will all enjoy this, and that way we will commemorate the whole day. Uh, Let me share my slides. As you know, the human being consists of body, mind, and the soul. Are my slides visible?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
Hello?
Yes, Sudhir bhai, they are visible. They are visible, Sudhir bhai.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. So, the human being consists of the body, mind, and the soul. We know that. The human being brings with his purview physical development, psychological unfolding, and spiritual realization in that order. So generally, the body is treated as material reality, the mind is treated as the non-material reality, while the Indian Vedic philosophy receives the soul as the subtle and ultimate reality. The system of yoga has been brought into existence by the ancient sages of India and abroad, who in order to ensure proper functioning of this body, mind, and the soul. The principal objective of yoga is to make the individual understand and experience that the mind and body are destructible entities. The whole world that we create and we spend the whole life after, physical things like relationships, friends, family, money, lot of achievements, success, all these are destructible, while the indestructible entity is the soul. It is eternal and independent from the mind and body, and it is the cause of eternal bliss. So, how to achieve this knowledge and how to remain in the constant state of bliss, this is the objective of yoga. So I will talk the presentation with the first of my favorite slide, the Arya Satya. Lord Buddha, even yoga and Jainism and others, they have propounded that look, there is a problem everywhere. Everybody on this earth is suffering, right from birth to illnesses to death and lot of other things. There is a constant suffering, there is a constant pain. And that there has to be a cause. There is a second ultimate truth. If there is a problem, there has to be the cause. And if there is a cause, there has to be way. And if there is a way, we have to follow that, and we will get the solution of our problem. We will be liberated from pain, sufferings, and all that. In language of yoga, it is he, henopai, Hej, etc., etc. In Jain philosophy, we call it Bandha, Ashram, Samvar, and Moksha, etc. So the same thing. So the point is that there is pain, but the sufferings can be optional, and the whole yoga system is based on that. What is yoga? Yoga derives from the word yuj. Yuj is the verb. Yuj means to join, to combine. So what is that we combine? In general language, sometimes we use loosely the word, oh, aaj aapne malwano yog thayo nahi, we could not meet. So yoga is a kind of uh, you lose word in that sense. But the real meaning of yoga, according to the spiritual scriptures, is to join with the ultimate, to know the supreme soul, Paramatma, to understand the self, that is Atma, and to get liberation, that is huge. Uh, you to join with your own self and get the permanent bliss. So, uh, the classic text of yoga is Patanjali Yoga Darshan, as you know very well. And Rishi Patanjali is supposed to have been there around Buddha time, around 4th or 5th century BC. And he wrote the Yoga Sutra, which are considered the classic. He amalgamated the prevailing knowledge from previous sages, and then what he created was Chaturpad Yoga Sutra, where there is Samadhipad, Sadhanpad, Vibhutipad, and Kaivalyapad. We'll not go into all those because it requires a lot of time to understand, but he starts Adh Yoganuशासनम Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. चित्त की वृत्तियों को चंचल होने से रोकना और निरुद्ध करना और आत्मा के ऊपर ध्यान देना और आत्मा का रियलाइजेशन करना, वो दैट इज द अल्टीमेट purpose of yoga. And if you take Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Buddhi yukto jahatiya ubhe sukradushkate tasmad yoga yujyasya yoga karmasu kaushalam. कर्मों में कुशलता ही योग है, ऐसा भगवान ने गीता में बताया. और एक जगह पे गीता में बताते हैं समत्वम योग मुच्यते, सब चीजों में समत्व प्राप्त करना, समता प्राप्त करना, सुख दुख सभी में, इफ यू आर ऑन द बैलेंस्ड माइंड, दैट इज also part of yoga. The different styles of yoga in Indian scriptures is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, and offshoots are Hatha yoga, mantra yoga, kriya yoga, kundalini yoga, etc. etc. Now, the first thing which I really don't like is the word is yoga. In English pronunciation is actually yoga, yoga. So we should actually make a practice to say the Indian word yoga. Karma yoga is a path of self-realization through selfless work and service to others. So it is a kriya pradhan thing. Bhakti yoga consists of dedication, meditation, prayer, and devotion, and surrender to the God. That is bhakti yoga. In Gita, Bhagavan says that if you are surrendering yourself to me totally, I will ultimately endow you with the ultimate Gnan Yoga. So you will not require to go through the process of knowing everything. I will make sure that you learn everything. The Gnan Yoga is the yoga of wisdom, knowledge, of self-realization. It is most important for intellectual and enlightened people. It requires a lot of kindness, kind of egolessness, because in Gyan Yoga, many people get entangled into different kind of vibhrama and they get lost. So this is a little difficult one. If you are traversing Gyan Yoga only, then there are certain elements which you have to be careful. Raj Yoga is the science that Patanjali Rishi has talked about, is the science of controlling body, mind and soul by a specific stepwise systematic way. And Hatha Yoga is an integral part of this yoga, which operates mainly on physical part, that is asana and pranayama. We'll see that. Laya Yoga is the control of mind level, and Kriya Yoga is another yoga where you have some kind of penance and austerities, Swadhyay, that is reading, and Ishwar Pranidhan, that is bhakti. Similarly, Indian systems have talked about Kundalini Yoga, Mantra Yoga, पुष्टि मार्ग में भी साउंड योग की बात है, नाद योग की बात है. So all these are different styles of yoga, just to bring an overview to all of you. Now the question mera is how old the yoga is. Now Sri Bhagavan in Gita says to Arjun Parantapa, Imam vivasvate yogam praptavanam avyayam vivasman vahe praha manuriksha kavedvita bravit evam parampara praptamimam rajarshyo vidusa kaleniya mahata yogo nashta pranta. What he says that it was I who narrated this yoga first to God's sun god Surya. Surya then talked to Manu, the first of the human beings on the earth. Manu then gave it to Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku, by the destiny and the uh, dynasty, he just passed on to several generations. But with time, passage of time, it was forgotten. So I, in Bhagavad Gita, he says, I am reviving to you. So you can understand this is as old as the sun or Manu is. So it is very old. No exact evidence about the origin of yoga, we can say so. Actually, yoga has come from times immemorial. Religions practice yoga as one of the disciplines of spirituality. It was slow, but yoga gradually evolved and developed by the ancient sages, one after other. Kapil, Ikshvaku, Manu, we have seen Manu, Ikshvaku, Janak, Kausya, a lot of Marichi, they all developed it. And yoga is universal. It's not part of actually any religion, not limited to any nation, race, or sect. I will show you how. It's a very interesting history. It's because of the contribution of the great sages of India that made yoga an art and science of living. The fundamental contribution of India is that it made it an art and science of living to alleviate human sufferings and liberate and give the total physical, mental, and spiritual uplift. They gave it in a very classical spiritual way. Now, if you see the history, this is the classical yoga of Patanjali, as I mentioned, Raj Yoga, Manu, Surya, Kapil, Kaustya, Angiras, Janak. Pre-classical yoga was there thousands of years back in shamanism, shamans, then Indus Valley civilization. We'll see one by one. Then yoga in different religion is also there: Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, Islam, Sufism. Then post-classical yoga, that is Patanjali yoga, there were Hatha Yoga texts in 6th century by different authors. And then in the modern era, as you know, Vivekananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, Swami Shivanand, Kulanand, Aurobindo, Swami Satyanand, Osho, Maharshi, and others, they developed yoga very systematically, spread it across the globe. So let's see, yoga in Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samveda, Atharvaveda, how old they are? Some say it is 8,000, some say it is 15,000. A month back, I received a literature with authentic information that it is as old as 23,000. So in those texts also there are various description on sitting postures of asana and mudra for spiritual practices, pranayam and practice of mantra yoga, mystic sound, that is all very there in Vedas. Now Indus Valley civilization around 3000 back when the excavations were done, now it is a part of Pakistan, but here this kind of terracotta figures were found, different asanas including Padmasana, Siddhasana. You'll be surprised that in shaman tradition, which is very old cult originated from Siberia, supposed to be 20, 25,000 years old cult, there also we find different postures. Who are shamans? Shamans are tribal medicine people and spiritual beings with the ability to heal, work with energies, and see visions by way of trance journey in the world of spirits. That's what shaman is called. It's a very interesting subject some other time. Yoga in Upanishad, like so many Upanishad, Yoga Kundala Upanishad, Yoga Chudamani Upanishad, Maitreya Upanishad, Yoga Upanishad, Yoga Tattva Upanishad, Brahma Bindu, Dhyan Bindu, etc. So many Upanishads have mentioned yoga in different style. So Upanishads are part of Prasthantraya. What is Prasthantraya? Gita, Upanishad, and Uttar Mimamsa, some of the Vedanta and Bhashyas. These are Prasthantraya. And these are considered classic texts of Indian scriptures. Now, here Upanishad describes yoga in more definite shape. Then yoga in Tantra, the tantric systems of yoga still in vogue in Tibet, India, China, where males and female uh, practice yoga together to balance the masculine and feminine energy. And there is a lot of mention of this. As I mentioned, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has already said, and I mentioned that how he passed on to God's son and then it went on to the several generations. In current times, Vivekananda, Avedananda, and Yogananda, and even Aurobindo, they have all modified yoga in some or other format. And like Aurobindo talks about Purna Yoga, where he adds elements of aspiration, rejection, and surrender. Patanjal Raj Yoga is still considered the classic text. Nothing matches that. It's such a very powerful text, and we'll see little details when we will come to that. Yoga in pre-Columbian civilization, evidence of Hatha Yoga found in the pre-Columbian culture of America. Even now at St. Augustine, we visited once, and this kind of different portraits were found with various asanas. In Jainism, Lord Adinath is considered to be the first of the current Tirthankar. He dates as back as thousands of years old. Here, all the Jain deities are in Padmasana, and we believe as Jains that yoga is what? Yoga is that activity which is liberating the soul. मोक्ष की कारक जितनी क्रिया है वो सारी योग है और उसमें रत्नतरी मोक्ष मार्ग की डिटेल चर्चा है जिसमें राइटियस नॉलेज राइटियस कैरेक्टर एंड राइटियस फेथ these are three important elements. So that is a purely soul based meditative system. Yoga in Buddhism, again, Padmasana and Karuna and compassion are the most important aspects of Buddhism. He advocated a softer approach that is called Madhya Marg, middle path. They followed Ashtanga Samyak Marg, a very similar practice of Ashtanga Yoga for self-realization. Samyak Ajiv, Samyak Vichar, वगैरह वगैरह. You'll be surprised to know that Lord Jesus also called mentions about yoga as yoke. And yoke is a biblical word which means the same meaning of yoga, that is to join together or unite. There are mudras, there are meditative postures, there are rosary beads, prayer. They are all yoga elements in Christianity. Yoga in Islam, you know very well those postures they take during the prayer. Yoga in Sufism is also, Sufism is a very mystic tradition of Islam dedicated to love and service of one's fellow man and Allah. They use Vajrasan for meditation. Tam yogamiti mandite sthiram indriya dharanam. The Kathopanishad is the first Vedic scripture to use the word yoga and define it as the control of senses to achieve the supreme state. So that's how yoga came into very definitive form and definition. Now, before we get to the main text of the whole discussion today, let me tell you there are lots of misconceptions about yoga. Some say it is a Hindu religious practice, but you have seen that it is already there in Sufism, Islam, Bible, etc. They say that misconception is that it is a technique to attain only siddhis. No, siddhis or achievements are the byproducts, and yoga straightforward denies to get entangled or caught into different siddhis which are coming in the way as obstacle according to Patanjali. Some say it is a medical performance, some say it is limited to only monks. No, everybody can do it. It is not only a physical exercise, it's not for treatment only. Some people are afraid that if we practice yoga, we become celibate or monk. No, it is not so. And a lot of other misconceptions are there which we should remove. Now, yoga for total, what are the basic concept when you follow some yogic tradition? First of all, early to bed and early to rise. The proper cleansing of body, mind, etc. is required. There is Shat Kriyas. Proper diet is Mitahar. The proper exercises are required. Loosening exercise, stretching exercise, Surya Namaskar, Asan, Mudra, Bandha, etc. Proper breathing exercise, that is pranayam. The proper relaxation techniques like Shavasana, Matsya Kriyasan, वगैरह वगैरह. Positive thinking, Raj Yoga, Yam, Niyam you have to follow, and meditation is the core of all yogic practice. So first thing is to maintain good health. We have to get up in Brahma Muhurat. Sleeping late at night causes dysfunction of pineal gland, which causes several diseases, matter hormones. A very well-known fact now. Various studies have shown that morning people exhibit characteristics like optimism, being agreeable, high satisfaction, conscientiousness. And who could be more blatant an example than my friend Dr. Anirudh Apte, who is here. He is an early riser and he sleeps early, said by 10 o'clock is due. So now the next question is, who can practice yoga? No, Yuva, Vruddha, Ati Vruddho, Vyadhito, Durbalo, Piva, anybody can do yogic practices, but with the limit of his own bodily abilities. The success comes to him who is engaged in the practice. How can one get success without practice? For by merely reading books or talking in lectures, one can never get success. So yoga is a method of practice. How does perfection comes in yoga? Success cannot be attained by adopting a particular dress or wish. It cannot be gained by telling tales. Practice alone is the means to success. This is true, there is no doubt. Okay. So that's the important thing. Then what is yogic diet? Yogic diet is mitahar, you know that, no overeating, have balanced diet. Yogic diet has three important characteristics: how one eats, what one eats, when one eats. While we eat, we have to do first gratitude practice. We have to pray for the well-being of the whole universe, thank everybody, and then eat only as per the requirement of your body, for the basic need to survive and provide nourishment, not to overeat. And we have to worship the Mother Earth who produces food for all living beings, and we respect the farmers who cultivate food. And of course, thank God. How do we eat? Avoid talking or using mobile while eating. Take meals in the noon and before sunset. Avoid snacking habits. Yoga promotes the motto eat to live, not live to eat. Indicated foods are contraindicated foods that are specifically mentioned. Avoid viruddhahar, that is something dangerous for our body. They're all depicted in details. Blood is alkaline, so eat more alkaline foods, that is fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Vegetarian contains first-hand injuries, so eat more vegetarian diet, and so on. Even the great people who were the wrestlers and the world champions and Olympic medal winners, they were all great vegans, including Albert Einstein, Voltaire, Plato, Leonardo da Vinci, Gama, and others. So alkaline food is one of the most important things. Now we come to the main part of the talk, which will take another 30 to 35 minutes precisely. Karma Yoga is a path, as we discussed, to self-realization through selfless work and service to others. Bhakti Yoga consists of dedication, meditation, prayer, emphasis on devotion that we already talked. So now, if you look at the Raj Yoga, that consists of 8 parts: Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. Raj Yoga's main emphasis is in Antaranga Yoga, that is the last three, Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi, which focuses on the soul consciousness. While Hatha Yoga focuses mainly on purification of body, and therefore it talks about physical things, that is asana and pranayam, and of course to some extent pratyahara. And Laya Yoga is for the control of mind. So Raj Yoga, Hatha Yoga and Laya Yoga, these are three important aspects of Indian yoga. Kriya Yoga, as I mentioned earlier, is full of devotion and spiritual reading and tapashcharya, that is austerities and penance. Similarly, there is something called mystic Kundalini Yoga. When one elevates more on the level of Hatha Yoga, there is an appearance of Kundalini energy, where the energy flows from the Sushumna Nadi and passes through seven chakras, and as it goes higher and higher, one attains different levels of siddhis. You bypass them and reach to the final center, Sahasrara, and there you realize the permanent bliss. Similarly, there could be Mantra Yoga. Now here we should understand how this all knowledge evolved. It's a very interesting thing. Those who are bit novice for this area. Now India has developed, first there was Vedas, then there were Purans and etc. Then came Upanishad and Shad Darshan. Darshan is a kind of philosophy that they developed with a solid theory and text. Now, darshan consists of small sutras, and these there are six darshan which believe in Vedas, and these are Nyaya, which was written by Rishi Gautam, Vaisheshika, Kanad, then Rishi Kanad, then Sankhya was written by Kapil, it said, Yoga was written by Maharshi Patanjali, and then Uttar Mimamsa Jaimini and Apurva Mimamsa Jaimini and Uttar Mimamsa, which is consisting of Vedanta and other Upanishad aspects. So these are Shad Darshan. Out of that, Sankhya and Yoga are taken together. Sankhya is more of a theoretical thing, while Yoga is a practical utilization of the knowledge of Sankhya. So it is more technical and it is experience based. Sankhya is more of a theoretical thing. Sankhya uses Vivek as the main thing, while Yoga uses Sanyam as the main thing. What is Sanyam? Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So sometimes that's why Yoga is called Uttar Sankhya. And in Bhagavad Gita, which is supposed to be at least 5,000 years old, so many points Lord Krishna mentioned about Sankhya and Yoga together. So it is as old as that, or even much before that, as I mentioned, Lord gave it to Surya and Surya to Manu to Ikshvaku. Tasya Vachaka Pranav. Now here, Yoga in the first time takes a kind of acceptance of God in an indirect way. Sankhya does not take importance of God. It does not need God to explain the whole thing. While Yoga takes use of God and tells that Tasya Vachaka Pranav, to remember and recite God, you can talk about Omkar. That's how it differs from Sankhya. Yoga clearly believes that Jiva and Brahma are same, only the degreecal difference occurs. So every Jiva can become Brahman and only by the practice. Yoga, unlike Sankhya, uses systemic steps, technology to remove the difference between Jiva and Brahma and attain Kaivalya while following Ashtang Marg. And here, one of the milestone is Kumbhak, which is a defining step as per some. Yoga and Sankhya believes that Buddhi is the culprit. It corrupts the whole thing. So through, and there are five vrittis. We started with that, five vrittis, yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. So which are those five vritti that the chitta contains? Chitta is a part of the wholesome mind, that is Praman, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, Nidra, and Smriti. Sleep and Smriti, these are the vrittis. And all these five vrittis are when completely blocked, then the Purusha, that is the soul, Sanyam is established, and with the help of Sanyam, with the Abhyas and Vairagya, which are your tools, you can attain things. So this is the basic. Now I cannot go into the details of all this, but this is the concise steps that the yoga uses to understand. You might listen to this later and read it up to understand more. So what are the 8 steps Patanjali Rajyoga gives? One is, first is yama, second is niyam, third is asana, pranayama, are the body steps. These are the control of mind, cultivation and self-restraint. Here is the discipline. So what are the cultivation? Non-violence, truth, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, pariya. This is very well known to any Indian person, right? Because we know that from our culture. So with the practice of ahimsa, what you can attain, if you attain that state, then anybody who is quarrelsome, even the animals who are fighting amongst themselves, uh, let's say the lion and the deer, they will also sit in front of you without any kind of violence. So that is the advantage yogi achieves when he attains that height of non-violence. When the yogi is truthful and practices more and more, he attains vachan siddhi. Whatever he tells becomes the truth. With non-stealing, he becomes abhay, and with celibacy, uh, and he is able to know the past and future, etc. And with aparigraha, people totally uh, trust him, and with that he attains some more siddhi. So these are the different, reasons why you have to cultivate and do self-restraint of your mind so that you become prepared for the further steps of dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. Niyam is discipline, purity, Vedanta, that is tap, Shaucha, Santosa, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishwar Pranidhan. These are the 5 steps of Niyam. So Shuddhi is what? The purity of body and purity of mind. Tapa, satisfaction in whatever you have, so then you become totally blissful. Spiritual learning and worship and dedication. So these are steps which take you to different heights in yogic stages. Then you have to now prepare your body and your breathing so that you can attain samadhi at a later stage. So there are different postures. What is asana? Sthiram Sukham Asanam. In the posture where you can sit for a prolonged period of time without any discomfort, that is asana. There are 84 lakh different asanas that has been described in Hatha Yoga. And there are different pranayam, 8 different pranayams. And pratyahar. Pratyahar is what? Withdrawing senses from the external objects and diverting them to the internal part, that is towards the chitta. So that is called pratyahar. Then comes dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, which we'll see in the later part of the presentation. So yam, we have discussed social restraints or ethical values, satya, ahimsa, asteya, brahmacharya, parigraha. Niyam, we have discussed asan. Now we'll see all the. Now this is what Dr. Apte was mentioning, Prahlad Jani Mataji, a yogi. I'm so fortunate to have met him and similar yogis of Paramhans Kaksha and great sages. This yogi, he just died last year. He was able to sustain his life without any food or a morsel of food or even water. And he had so many different siddhis which he accidentally demonstrated to us. He could stop his breathing for a couple of minutes to 4, 5, 6 minutes in front of us, where he could stop his pulse also. So these were the kind of attainments that the yogi gets. Now, asana and pranayama, as I mentioned, are part of Hatha Yoga, in the sense Hatha Yoga very elaborately discusses that. So Hatha Yoga is what? A science of body purification, awakening of pranic energy. Now Hatha Yoga The word Hat comes from Ha is Pingala Nadi or sun principle, that is the right nostril. Tha is the Ida Nadi or moon principle, Chandra Nadi. Hatha is a balance between Pingala and Ida. And Nadi is pranic energy, is called Srota, where the pran force passes. So Pingala is right nostrils, male sun principle, physical energy, and it represents body. This represents body. Ida represents mind, is left nostril. So that is Hatha. So balance of body and mind. Imbalance of physical and mental energy is the state of disease. An imbalance is due to blockage in the nadis or energy passages. Aim of Hatha Yoga is purification of body through these nadis or energy passages. The origin of Hatha Yoga, it is mentioned in Tantra's development in 6th century, founded by great sage Matsendranath and his disciple between 6th century to 15th century. Hatha Yoga attained highest level, and there are several books: Hatha Yoga Pradipika by Swami Satmaram, Garand Samhita, Goraksh Shiv Samhita, Yoga Travali. Like this one is a classical Hatha Yoga book that I occasionally refer for my knowledge. So contents of Hatha Yoga, there are sat karma, 6 cleaning techniques. There are 84 like asana, out of which some are important and commonly practiced. Pranayama is control of prana. There is a third aspect. 4 is mudra, psychic gestures, and bandha is energy locks. I know that in a short time I am not able to give you the details, but at least you should know how these systems have been organized. So, Shat Karma is a cleansing technique to remove accumulated toxins in the body, homeostasis. Because you have to remove the blockage in Nadi, they have developed the Shat Karma system, and that also awakens the psychic faculties. So these are Neti, Dhoti, Basti, Nauli, Kapalbhati, and Tratak. Kapalbhati is a part of Shat Karma. It's not part of pranayam, believe me. So I'm sure many of you would have gone through this Neti, Dhoti, Basti, Nauli, etc. Then asan are the steady and comfortable postures. Stiram, Sukham, Asanam. Aim of asan is to achieve healthy body and stable mind. And there are 8.4 million asanas. Most important are two: Padmasana, that is lotus pose, and Siddhasana, that is the perfect balance pose. Mastery of asan, maintaining for 3 hours in steady and comfortable way, that means you have mastered that asana. If you can sit comfortably for 3 hours. And as I mentioned, different texts have mentioned different asanas, but perfection is more important than practicing a number of asanas. If you perfect only 2 or 4 asanas, that is much, much better than practicing so many asanas daily. Now, what is the role of asana? You can see the nature and the animals are also adapting to specific postures of relaxation, stretching. So everywhere in the animal kingdom also there are asanas. So asana is what? Stretching, flexibility, strength. It controls physical movements, controls breath, massages internal organs, regulates endocrine and autonomic nervous systems, opens the potential energy channels and controls the mind. These are the benefits of asana. And if you see, even the children, infants even, you say they will always, either they will backward, there is a backward bend asana, or there is an extension of the expansion of the chest. So these are the automatic postures adapted by even the infants. It relieves pain in the back and strengthens the abdominal muscles, effective in curing constipation, controls of abdominal viscera, etc., etc. There are three benefits of stretching: decreases of injury, reduces stress, increases flexibility, increases flow of vital nutrients, blood and synovial fluid, etc., etc. So stretching produces lot of benefits. That is why asanas are very good for health. It decreases muscle soreness also. Nature is the best teacher of yoga once again. Besides do yoga without, babies do yoga without even training. It is a natural fixing, you know. It is because of such postures the nature, the curvature of the spine develops. The panacea of all disease is our Ek Padasana, Vajrasan, where you are achieving balance of body as well as mind. As we age, our balance skills deteriorate. Practice of balancing asana helps to improve and maintain balance throughout our lives. If you cannot stand on one leg less than 10 seconds, try it today or tomorrow. It means that your aging process and degeneration has started. So start practicing yoga, start practicing standing on one leg, then do Tadasana, Padasana, etc. etc. And look at this Bakasana, that is called, we have learned it from the even birds. There are a lot of so positive psychological effects. It sharpens awareness, it improves concentrations, because without focus awareness, balance cannot be maintained. So, Ek Pad Prana, Ek Pad Pranavasan is very important. It helps develop willpower. It is therefore useful for people with addiction problems or even low self-esteem. It improves the visual perception, auditory perception, etc. The next thing is mudra and bandha. There are mudras like psychic gestures which induce a particular state of mind. When you are seeing Baba Ramdev or other yogis and you are seeing them with, mastering a lot of asanas and mudras and bandhas and doing like this, because of the practice of years. So abhyas and vairagya, these are two prerequisites for learning yoga. And Sanyam is for the antarang thing, that is your dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, to attain the blissful state. Mudras, bandhas, there are 10 mudras and 3 bandhas in Hatha Yoga. 3 bandhas are Jalandhar Bandh, Mool Bandh, Uddiyana Bandh. I'm sure many of us have learned this basic yoga and it's very important. So now we go to pranayam. What is pranayam? We have learned Shat Kriya, little about the bandha, mudra, asana. Now we talk about pranayam. What is prana? Prana is the finest vital force in everything which becomes visible on physical plane as motion and on mental plane as thought. The word pranayam therefore means the restraint of vital energies. Okay, it is the control of vital energy which tingles throughout the nerves and blood vessels of a person and moves the muscles and body functions. It causes him her to sense the external world and enjoy life. So this is a vital force between the body, senses, and behind is the mind. In between the vital force is prana, and behind that all is our soul. The control of this force is what is aimed at by the yogis by means of prana. Unfortunately, modern science does not understand what prana is or cannot take account into laboratory, and they don't know about nadis and shrotas, which is a matter of experience. Therefore, science is not still able to understand this aspect of and that is the humanity is at loss. But it is thanks to Indian yogic system that now people have started doing a lot of experiments, and I will show you some of the results. So pranayama is control and extension of prana. Emotions, desires create blockage in nadis. What causes blockage in the nadis? Our own thoughts, emotion, desires. Their blockages dissipate our energy. And aim of the pranayama is to open up these blockages, right? In Hatha Yoga, 8 types of pranayama are discussed. It is initiated with Nadi Shodhan, that is Anulom Vilom, etc. So these are the different pranayams. Surya Vedan, Ujjayi, Sitkari, Shitkari. Sitkari and Sitli is a cooling kind of pranayam. Brahmari, humming bee breath, it is for calming down. Brastika bellows the breath. Murcha, swooning or fainting breath. And Plavini is gulping the breath. What a profound science it is. As you read and go through this Hatha Yoga book or Raja Yoga book, you realize what these sages have done. They have obliged us by giving such a great uh, inheritance. Unfortunately, we did not realize our own property, inheritance, and we just followed the West. Now it is coming back from the West with the flavor of science. So pranayama is an exact science. It's the fourth anga or limb of Ashtanga Yoga. As I said, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama is the fourth. तस्मिन् सति श्वास प्रश्वास्य श्वास प्रश्वास्य और गति विच्छेद pranayama. This is what Patanjali Rishi writes. Means regulation of breath or the control of pran is the stoppage of inhalation and exhalation which follows after that steadiness of posture or seat or asana. And he talks about Kumbhak, Rechak, and Pura. And Kumbhak is the main thing that one has to learn. And by doing all this pranayam, we can correct faulty breathing habits. Our oxygen intake improves. We are full of energy, vital capacity. Our body is without ailments because it is all cleaning up process, cleansing thing. It activates parasympathetic nervous system, makes you slow, calm in yogic mode. Our pulse and blood pressure, respiration, all slow down. And brain needs more oxygen, so it gets more benefited. And then there are a lot of other benefits, and these are different pranayam. I'm sure these are available with many texts, but I would suggest that for a novice person, if you want to learn pranayam, go to guide or a guru, read the theory first, go to a guru, understand the methodology and do it properly. Okay, even one or two pranayama are sufficient if done properly. You don't have to do all eight. So there is a Surya Nadi and Chandra Nadi. There is something called Swarodaya Vijnana. There are separate big science based on right and left nostril breathing. When to learn to transfer your breathing to right side or to the left side or operate through both nostrils and how does it do magic. That is all written up. And I've met some of the yogis who are able to do this and they can do wonders in front of us. But it is not for the show off, it is not for the magic, it is for the self sublimation. Now you are preparing for meditation. So you have done self restraint, self cultivation, followed by self discipline niyam. Then you have learned the posture for you can sit for hours together for meditation, that is asan. Then you learn pranayam, then you've done pratyahar, and then these are Brahmari, Anulom, Vilom, and you'll be surprised to know that there are so many articles published on asana and pranayam and the good effects of Brahmari pranayam on health. This is the effect of 12 weeks of Kapalbhati pranayam training on cardiorespiratory parameters in young healthy individuals. Yogic breathing with training and continuous practice, it is found to be an effective means of enhancing pulmonary function and calming mind. Shitali and Brahmari pranayam. One fact, there are very few standard ways of living long. Out of that, one is to reduce your body temperature. Instead of 98.4, if your body temperature is 98.6 or 98.8 on an average, then you live quite less. But if it is 98.4 or 98.2, you can live longer. And yogis do this. By pranayam, Shitli, Shitkari and others, they can bring down the body temperature. So whatever misconception I have shown, they're all found to be false and baseless. Yoga has been studied and found to have positive effects on physical fitness, mood, anxiety, cognitive functioning. And the slow and gentle movement and static nature of asana improve the muscle tone as well as the flexibility. And the statistics say that about 60% of the doctors in Western world have started accepting first that this is a standard therapy in addition to a medical system, and 20% of them have started prescribing. Let alone in India, we are still at the stage where we are waiting for the West to confirm. But like people like me have already started prescribing for last 15 years to our patients that look, You do asana, do pranayam, do meditation, etc. And look, what are the health benefits of yoga? A lot of disease, arthritis, allergy, asthma, hypertension, coronary artery disease, irritable bowel, migraine, constipation, tension, headaches, menopause, obesity, skin disorders, substance abuse, those who are in habit of alcohol, smoking, they all can be removed with the practice of yoga. Yoga Nidra is a successful therapy for both recent and long-standing psychological disturbance of all kinds, especially high anxiety levels, new behavior patterns. So everything has been published by peer-reviewed journals, and even the Cochrane study, with the largest database of the world, they say that yoga led to clinically important improvements in blood pressure and blood lipids, and therefore take-home message from this review could in fact be that healthcare practitioners can confidently recommend yoga to patients in order to minimize some important cardiovascular disease and stroke-related risk factors. If yoga can reduce stress with the help of several pathways, which I don't think we can go into detail, but mainly stress operates through hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and another is the sympathetic nervous system. And this is how the disease occurs through different hormones and neurotransmitters. But yoga can elevate all that by systematically increasing vagal tone and blocking sympathetic system and increasing parasympathetic tone. Even in the cancer patient, the fatigue and pain is reduced. So there are several studies on the effect of yoga on physical and psychological being proves that all the misconception level in yoga are baseless. Friends, my last 5-7 minutes is on meditation. Exercise and meditation is an exercise and cleaning as we do for body. A state of altered consciousness. Meditation, see, after we finish asana pranayam, we have to withdraw our senses from external objects and direct them introvertly. And then you start with the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Dharana is a focus attention on a part of something, and that you have to put it in your mind continuously, hold it. While meditation is a unified thought process, continuous thought process of the same object continuously without any break. So holding an object and then continuously thinking and observing that object very minutely without allowing any other thought to be there. And then a stage comes where out of the three things, when you are meditating on thing, there are three elements. There is an object, there is a subject, and there is yourself, and in between there is the unified thought process. So while you are doing meditation and when you become profoundly involved, a state comes when the subject and the process of meditation itself, the chitta vritti, that disappears, and the subject become identified with the object. So that is the stage where samadhi comes. In a very simpler language, I have tried to explain how dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. It's much more than that, and this is a state of altered consciousness, fourth stage of consciousness, spiritual ecstasy with neurological manifestation. It's no more a kind of hallucination. It is an actual neurological event. Meditation is an actual neurological event we can measure. And there are various definitions of meditation. None of them is perfect as per the Indian scriptures. Thinking deeply or spiritually about subject is a complex cognitive task. It is more than relaxation, concentration, contemplation, posturing. But actually, the whole aim of meditation is to give you a lot of benefits. The first is the physical, mental, emotional health, cure and control of psychosomatic disorders, including blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, and so many other things. It relieves the stress, it improves spiritual health, there's a better concentration, sharpness, improves job performance, interpersonal relationship, and it brings a change of attitude, inner peace, patience, It cultivates and promotes positive emotions and removes negative thoughts. It helps in controlling anger and conquering fear. So all negativity is removed. You become positive. Your emotions, thought, your actions, your words, everything becomes positive. And you are master of your thought. It improves the quality of life. And ultimately, you are bestowed with intuitive knowledge, healing power, magnetic personality, and occult powers. So there are lots of studies on meditation. What are the benefits of meditation, like psychosomatic disorders, irritable bowel syndrome? All these are myriads of papers. I would say more than 10,000 papers on yoga and meditation you will find on internet or PubMed. And the various diseases like psoriasis, carotid artery, stroke, coronary artery disease, plaque regression, heart attacks, hospital admission, etc. etc. So many places meditation and yoga helps, that is beyond any doubt. No, but is it what we do meditation for? No. We do meditation to learn to remain in the present moment. As I mentioned initially, the whole concept of yoga is liberation from sufferings, liberation and attaining moksha, or getting kaivalya, to know the things as they are without any perceptual problem of buddhi. And that is what is the purpose of meditation. So to remain in the present moment, to मर से अमर होने की प्रक्रिया उसका नाम meditation. As I mentioned, when you are doing deep meditation, out of three things, two disappear. That what disappears? The mental faculty that disappears, chitta disappears, and that is what brings you perfect knowledge and perfect bliss. So perfect knowledge is your philosophical self-realization. Purush, Param Purush realization is God realization. Total bliss, that is relief of pain and suffering, and ultimate is liberation, moksha. There are several ways you can meditate. And I don't have time to go into this because today we are not focusing mainly on meditation, but these are different meditative systems, techniques that has been developed in India, right from Patanjali Dhyan, Anapanasati, Smriti Upasthana, Vipassana, Preksha Dhyan, Jain Dhyan, Kayasar, Tratak, Atit Dhyan, Bhavi Dhyan, Sahaj Dhyan, Transcendental Kundalini Dhyan, etc. Tratak is one of them. But interestingly, as a neurologist and neuropsychiatrist people, we are all finding it is very, very interesting that different meditative systems ultimately have a common denominator. And if you are doing Tibetan Buddhist meditation, you start with the increased frontal and thalamus input and decreased parietal input. If you are doing transcendental meditation, it is only frontal input increase. There is increased activity in the frontal area, while the thalamus and parietal activity are opposite to each other. While with the inside open monitoring, Vipassana, you have different kind of conditions. Ultimately, there are two important things that happen in brain. Of course, there are a lot of neurochemical changes in the brain, neurotransmitter increases are all mapped. And this was the person, Dr. Andrew Newberg, who started measuring SPECT machine, different way how you meditate, what are the circuits, what are the neurotransmitters, how the levels are changed. He published that paper, seminal paper, and that changed the whole outlook of Western world. So while as a finishing slide, I would say that friends, yoga is an excellent tool, and we all are forgetting that we have a tremendous heritage with us, and we pass our whole life without doing yoga. Yoga is a thing which we have to incorporate in our daily life. It's very simple. You take either Raj Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, whatever way. But if you do yoga and ultimately meditation, your blood flow and metabolism in the frontal area increases, and therefore you become quite enlightened person. your intelligence, your judgment, executive capabilities, your memory, your planning, all things improve, which makes a stronger, powerful human being. We as human race are more powerful because of these faculties, even language, communication, everything resides here. And during meditation, there is 30% improvement in brain function in these areas. So my friends, I wish that all of us will learn meditation and do it daily, regularly for life. The second most important and relevant meditation is reduction in the blood flow of the left parietal area, left side and the parietal side, and that is seen as with the red is the blood flow, and you see it is reduced here while it was increasing, which means increase intelligence, cognition, while here that shows this is the area of mental faculties of thought, desires, emotions, perversion, anger, ego, etc. And with the help of meditation, we are able to control all these things. So, friends, if you want to become a very powerful human being, compassionate human being, those who can have self-control, and if you want to take care of our avidya, the reasons of our sufferings are our avidya, that is wrong knowledge of self and other things. We identify ourselves with the things. We are soul, but we are trying to identify ourselves with the items. So that wrong prakshev, wrong perception should be removed. Avidya, asmita, rag, dresh, abhinivesh, these are the clash which produce our miseries and pain. Thoughts, emotions, desires are a product of that. So with that, we should get rid of them. And lastly, prayer is also a very good tool. And with prayer, we have increased blood flow in limbic system, which produces kind of compassionate living. We are on parasympathetic mode with slow heart rate, low BP, and lower respiratory rate, which increases our mobility and you become serene and calm, peaceful person. So happiness and peace is at our doorsteps. We have to learn yoga in the correct way to achieve it. I think I have tried to cover up a lot of things in 1 hour, and I'm very thankful for your patient listening. Thank you, and I want Dr. Apte, please take over.
Excellent deliberation, Sudhir bhai. A very, very detailed insight into our heritage and the benefits which we can really get from practicing yoga. I would ask Chintan to start with the list of questions which have been already received. And Chintan, if you could start asking the questions which you have received.
Yes. Thank you, sir. It was a very enlightening session, and as you said, yoga is to add up, to sum up, all the karmic things. So it was beautifully explained that why yoga is very important, essential part. Yoga is I think life. That is the sutra. Sir, in the series of questions that we have received, one was what is Sadh Darshan? So if you can elaborate on Sadh Darshan and how this Sadh Darshan, yes.
See, yeah, as I mentioned briefly, Indian philosophy took several stages. There are three main streams. One was Vedic system, another was Jain system, and third is the Buddhist system. Now, those from Vedas, the holy Vedas were supposed to be more than 8,000-10,000 old. And from Veda were operating on Shrutis. Then came Puranas, then came Bhagavad Gita, where there were sloks, etc. Then came Upanishad, where there were again sloks. And then out of all this knowledge, they tried to compile in different logical systems. We call it Bhashya, Darshan Shastra, that is philosophical system. And there were 6 philosophical systems who believed in the authenticity of yoga, authenticity of Vedas. So they accepted Vedas as the main text, and from there the whole thing have been derived. And there you have 6 darshan. One is Nyaya Darshan, Rishi Gautam had written that. Vaisheshik, Rishi Kanad, where a lot of things about atoms have been propounded. Then came Sankhya, Rishi Kapilji had written. Sankhya is mainly the theoretical aspect of yoga. And then came Yoga Darshan of Patanjali. Of course, it is a compilation, as I mentioned. Yoga was operating even before 5000, when Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also talks about yoga and Sankhya. So Patanjali Rishi is only 500 years before Christ. So it is much older, but Patanjali did a marvelous job of compiling things in a very systematic manner. So that was the 4th one, Sankhya Yoga. Then Purva Mimamsa is written by Jaimini, which is based on Vedic Karmakand, and then Uttar Mimamsa, Vedanta, and other things. So this is how this Shat Darshan operates. These are called Astik Darshan in the sense they believe in Veda. It has nothing to do with God or Ishwar. Astik Darshan means those who believe in Veda. There are 3 darshans which are not Astik, that is Jain Darshan, Buddhist darshan, and Charvak. They don't accept Vedas as the ultimate authority for some or other reason. And therefore they are called Nastik. It doesn't mean that they don't believe in God or this or that. Astik and Nastik word here is in context to accepting Vedas. So this is how the darshans came. And then to finish the list, Brahma Sutra was written by Badarayan, and then there were 4 different Advaitavad came up, one by Shankaracharya, Madhavacharya, Ramanuj, and Pushtimark, Vallabhacharya. So these are how the whole Vedic से लेके यहाँ तक की यात्रा हुई. इसके बाद all Indian darshans were stopped. This is how the things evolved.
Thank you, sir. So there is a question from Mr. Bipin Pancholi. Yeah, Dr. Bipin, you can unmute and ask question. Yeah.
અહીં સુધીરભાઈ, મેડિટેશન તો તમે અદ્ભુત મેડિકલ સાયન્સ અને ન્યુરો સાયન્સ પ્રમાણે અદ્ભુત છે એવું પુરવાર થયું, બહુ આનંદ આવ્યો. પણ મારે ક્રિયાયોગ વિશે જાણવું હતું. મેં એક વિડીયો જોયો હતો એક હઠ યોગીનો, એણે નેતિ ગજકાણી બસ્તી ડેઈલી કરે છે. તો મારે એ જાણવું હતું કે નેતિ તો બહુ સુંદર, એ પણ તમે કહેજો, પણ ગજકરણી એટલે કે વમન કરે અને ગરમ પાણીની બસ્તી એ હઠયોગી રોજ કરે, તો એ મેડિકલ સાયન્સ પ્રમાણે કઈ એની આડઅસર થાય છે ખરી?
See, these people don't jump to daily basti, Gajkarni, Noli, वगैरह, because they have empowered their body before and they have prepared in such a way that they can undergo everything. Hot yogis can, if you have seen the Kumbh Mela, they can stand in one posture for a month. So they require kind of huge practice. So all these things are very simple for them. For us, if we go and do all this, we will be in trouble. But for these people, because of their abhyas and vairagya, 2 things, they are able to do everything.
એટલે once in a while બી આપણે કરીએ ગજકરણી કે બસ્તી, તો એ એની એન્ટી ઇફેક્ટ થાય છે મેડિકલ સાયન્સ પ્રમાણે?
Under the guidance of some yogi, you can do it. all these areas are not to be chartered without the guidance of a right guide.
હા એ તો છે જ
But
ના એ તો છે.
I've come across several cases where they have done something funny, and like one case had come last year who was doing shavasana for 1 hour, and then he came up with some, horrible problems in the brain, which we took long time to fix. So my point is, these are all possible, but with lot of practice.
અચ્છા નેતિ છે નેતિથી સાયન્ટિફિકલી શું ફાયદો થતો હશે જસ્ટ ટુ નો નેતિથી પાણી જે જાય એ
It is all basically to open up the closed areas, as I mentioned, srotas. So medical system does not still understand the subtle forces, nadis, and so there is no way to measure, to uh, what we call even find out with an instrument what nadi is. And there are 72,000 nadis, they say, which starts from. So this is a mystic thing. It's a subtle thing. See, Hatha Yoga, when it enters at the level of pranayam, and then when it enters the pratyahar, it starts talking about subtle things, and the kundalini starts, as I mentioned. So these are the subtle forces, and unfortunately, till date, medical system has not been able to identify and measure. But
Thank
one day, maybe that we'll be able to do that.
But from my experience, Sudhir bhai, now after becoming a neurologist, I came to learn of these things when I became a neurologist. But when I was a college student during my MBBS, we used to do exercise in the garden, and then someone came and told us to do deep breathing exercises. That was the beginning of pranayam, and later we came to know that this is called pranayam, because we are not into the heritage and little knowledge of yoga and everything. But one very important thing and personal experience which I had was, whenever we started doing those deep breathing exercises and pranayam, it had a definite and a very definite effect on memorizing the things. एग्जाम के पहले हम लोग 1.5-2 महीना पहले वो शुरू करते थे तो हमको याद अच्छे से रहने लग जाता था. This is from personal experience, learning all the medical facts and figures and then representing them in the exams. It was a big task during those times. तो जब भी हम लोग प्राणायाम करते थे और आसन करते थे, तो हम लोगों का मेमोरी, मैंने देखा कि मेमोरी बहुत अच्छी हो जाती थी, मेमोराइज हो जाता था. जो पढ़ते थे वो फटाफट याद रह जाता था, और वी कुड रिप्रेजेंट इट इन द एग्जाम्स. So this is one thing which I have learned from my personal experience, that your memory does improve when you do pranayam.
You have touched this in a very wonderful way, but let me tell you, Swami Vivekananda ji once said, those all guys who have attained something in life in whatever field as excellence, they all must have done yoga in their life in one or other form. Otherwise, this is not possible. That is what a profound statement he has given. Without
Yes.
yoga, some or other way, either you're doing bhakti yoga, your gyan yoga, karma yoga, kriya yoga, mantra yoga, or raj yoga, something you must have done to open up your field of vision, to purify your body and mind processes, and then only you can enter into the subtler thing. That is what, and I also agree to what he says.
Right. Any more questions, Chintan, or can we wind up?
Yeah. I think we are over time, sir. We can give our concluding remarks. Sir.
Yeah. Excellent deliberations on yoga, Sudhir bhai. You have an immense knowledge of all these things, and we would love to hear you in more detail on these topics. And I think it calls for a one-day seminar rather than a 1-hour session. And sometimes maybe if we get interested people who are really into it, we can have a half day or a full day discussion at a place of our choice once the COVID thing gets over. And we can include the general public as well, so that they have a insight and an amalgamation of the yoga and the neurologic background of all the positivities and the positive effects which yoga has on our body and mind. So sometimes later on we can think of having such a meeting with amalgamation of science and yoga together.
It's a
So
good
I think we stop the deliberations here, and good night to everybody. Thanks for attending it, and thanks Sudhir Bhai for enlightening us about our heritage and the positive benefits of yoga and meditation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for remaining present.
Thank you, Sudhir sir. Thank you, Dr.
God
Apte
bless.
sir.
Okay, good night, good night, good night.
Wishing you a
We
happy
close
World Yoga Day
session
tomorrow.
with,
Thank you.
yeah, I close with a prayer. Omkar Bindu Sanyuktam Nityam Dhyayanti Yogina Kamadam Mokshadam Chaiva Omkaraya Namo Namah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti. Okay, good night, everybody.